Hi guys, welcome to deepSPEAK. I'm Michael, this is Barbara.
Hello.
So today, this is video 3, we're talking about gut health. Barbara, you're a doctor of Chinese medicine and acupuncture. You're very well known and you've been doing this a really long time. So we talked about Chinese medicine's perspective on gut health and also about how gut health affects all over health and the mind and heart connection. But you said something really interesting, and that is how your constitutional type can actually affect your gut health, and I'm curious to hear more about that.
Okay, well, constitution's really important, and understanding, like what your different type is going to influence, the choice of foods that you have, what you're actually attracted to, and even seasons, for example. Some people don't cope very well in the hot weather, or some people, like the dry weather, or some people find the rain very difficult, or a person like myself, I dislike the wind. And so all these things are actually really informative in terms of what our constitutional type is and what kind of foods we might like. So understanding that first is really critical, because once you understand your constitutional type, then you can make really informed decisions about what's going to be of benefit to you. So understanding that is, like maybe coming and having an appointment with you. You're trained basically in...
or you.
Yeah, or me, yeah. And understanding what your constitutional type is. And once you've got that information, then I think then you're able to basically to start this journey of, investigating what works for you. And knowing that these things aren't black and white, for example, but, what's happening with your health right now might be quite different in, 12 months' time or 2 years' time. But just to give you an example, I had a client come the other day who had absolutely excruciating stomach pains and was going to go to the hospital. And on kind of, talking with her, I discovered she'd had, just eaten 12 mangoes. And it's really, really interesting.
Only in the tropics.
Yes, only in the tropics. And it's really interesting because in Chinese medicine, mangoes are considered very...
food of the gods.
They are, and they are.
Yeah, right.
But actually, if you look at the energetic of them from, a Chinese medicine perspective, they're actually very damp and very heating.
Yes, okay.
And also cold in nature. So when you've got a weak digestive system and you're eating like a lot of raw or uncooked foods, or then on top of it you eat foods that have the quality and energetic of being like heating and damp, that's a problem for someone who's, gastrointestinal system's already,
it's compromised.
It's compromised.
Okay.
So we had a big talk about that, and, I've communicated with the person since then. We've introduced like more warming or just lightly steamed foods for the person until they get their kind of the fire back in their belly.
The agni, the digestive fire. Because I hear you say that a lot to clients. Like a lot, I was one of those people that ate raw a lot, thinking it was the healthiest, but there's a lot of cellulose around raw foods that the body finds it really hard to break down. And of course, if you had really good digestive fire, it's usually not a problem. But I'm quite a nervous kind of person anyway. I've got a lot of nervous energy, so that's that mind gut connection. So I don't want to challenge my nervous system even more with foods that are quite damp or too hot. Is that
That's
am I
correct
right? That's
for you.
correct, yeah.
So what
Whereas that might not be the same for someone else.
Oh, totally. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you eat a lot of raw foods, for example, and you've got a weak digestive system, I say to people it's like putting water on a fire.
Yeah.
We need fire in the belly, and you hear that expression, fire in the belly. It means, something, in terms of our passion, but it also means something in terms of the processing of food in our gut, and then how that kind of gets transformed, to the rest of our kind of, organs and system.
Sure, and I hear you talk a lot about there seems to be like a damp crisis, I call it, and you're quite often prescribing sometimes bone broths or root vegetable foods.
Yes.
So tell me about why that's such a common, I don't know if it is common, but I seem to hear a lot of that in your practice. Why is that recommended quite a lot? What does that do for damp?
Yeah, well, I think particularly because we live in the tropics, we're exposed to a lot of humidity, we're exposed to a lot of heat. So that external climatic factor actually manifests often into our internal climatic factor. So if we've already got a bit of a heat condition or a damp condition, and then we're having a lot of these heat-producing foods, then we're actually exacerbating a lot of our symptoms.
Right.
So what I say to people is, well, you know, perhaps what we need to do is introduce some more cooling foods or some more nourishing foods, and actually strengthen the digestive system, so that then we can introduce some of those other foods, and you know, it's got more tolerance for it.
Okay, and if you were in a cold climate, because some viewers might be in a cold climate, it would be, I guess, a cold damp issue.
That's right.
So we would introduce more warming
foods. That's right.
Yeah,
and also,
right.
you know, like if you look at a place like Melbourne, I mean, I was there last November, and within 2 days, one day it was 16 degrees and the next it was 40. So
your gut health's like crazy.
yeah, so we're talking about a lot of you know, climatical changes in a 24-hour kind of time frame.
Okay.
But often in Melbourne also it's quite drying too.
Yes.
So then we need to think about what is it for people in those kind of climates.
Yeah, okay. So would you change what you eat on a daily basis based on the weather even?
Yeah, I look at things like what's the current season, what are the kind of foods that are available to me at this time, what's happening with my current health, and what's my constitutional pattern. And you know, so therefore understanding the energetics of food, you know, I choose accordingly.
Okay, so overall, to wrap it up, this is video 3, gut health in a nutshell.
Number 1, understand your constitutional type. Number 2, know that you've got 3 important information systems, 3 brains, the heart, the mind and the gut, and that there's this relationship, you know, that exists between the 3 of them. A superhighway of information is being transmitted all the time. Number 3, understand the practices and principles of Ayurvedic, Chinese medicine, approach to food, which is scientific and ancestral, and you know, like, listen to your body and follow what it needs.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Barbara. You're amazing. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.